When the sugars are too high or they fluctuate too much, we can see changes in that earlier than a lot of people or a lot of other physicians can, because we are looking directly at those vessels. So for a diabetic eye exam, we always do the standards of checking vision, checking prescription, and then in the health part of the exam, which is the most important when it comes to diabetes, we're checking for things like cataracts. There are we know that they can have advanced cataracts with diabetes, especially if it's uncontrolled. So people who are younger tend to get cataracts earlier if they are diabetic. So we're checking for that. And then we go in and dilate the eyes so that we can get a better look inside the eye, and specifically looking at the retina. The retina has vasculature that supplies oxygen to the retina, both in front and behind the retina. But when we look in the eye, we can see that vasculature, and we can see if there's any stress due to the sugars. So we're looking for leakages in the vessels, blood, kind of coming out as well. We're looking for areas of edema. We're looking for areas that may be starving for oxygen, because when we do not have enough oxygen in the vessels because the sugars are too high, then that's usually when parts of the retina, and this happens all throughout our body, but they start to starve for oxygen. So that's when we start to see changes in the retina, which is why it's important to have that diabetic retinal eye exam.
And then are those changes seen both by manually by you and also with the photos, or is it just the photos are just something different that it's looking for?
So let's say we did an eye exam, a diabetic eye exam without the photos. I would see everything I need to see and document accordingly. When we have the photos available to us, it just basically documents it to the nth degree, right? Mm-hmm. So it's more than just my notes of saying, oh, I see a certain level of diabetic retinopathy. This one, then the photos will actually document that, so that I don't, that I can share that with the physician, and it's a little more information.
Does that create a baseline,
picture,
like which you would look through next year?
Correct. So if we do have, let's say we don't have any changes from the diabetes, which is great. At least we have that photo and that baseline photo so that we can compare it to next time and say, hey, see, I didn't see this last year, but now we know your sugars are a little bit higher and we're seeing some changes. So let's get your sugars back down, see what we can do to control that, have you back in, 6 months at that point, and then see if there's any change there, good or bad.
Would it be fair to say that that an eye doctor can see kind of changes maybe before, other doctors might be able to see them?
Absolutely. Because again, when we look into the eyes, we're actually looking at the vasculature, and that is the area that's affected. It's a vascular condition. So when the sugars are too high or they fluctuate too much, we can see changes in that earlier than a lot of people or a lot of other physicians can, because we are looking directly at those vessels. When we look in the eye, we don't have to inject dyes. We don't have to cut open. It's right there for us to look at. So again, the importance of those photos is to just say, aha, here's what we have. Here's the status of our vascular health right in our eyes. And that's going throughout our entire body. So that's why people do get neuropathy at their feet, because they're, that blood flow is being decreased to that area. So it's showing us that directly when we look in the eyes.
So you would send over documentation to their primary care physician pretty much for every diabetic patient? Okay.
It does depend. Some physicians, if there's no diabetic retinopathy, they just want to make sure you're getting your eyes checked. Mm-hmm. If there is diabetic retinopathy, depending on the severity, we would then share that with their primary care physician as well.